Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Got a good one in store for you. I have a feeling it's about to get crazy. This might be a deep one. I'm here for it. Really excited to announce my guest today, returning to the show, Stephen from the Biblical Hitmen. Stephen, how are you, brother?
What is up, Tim? Are you ready to get into Atlantis? Are you ready to talk about what everyone seems to be talking about today? I don't know. I mean, I do know some
Yeah.
groups are out there that we've heard on very big podcasts, very big platforms for a long time. But now it's coming into, I'm almost coming to realize that all of this, everything that's happening is revolving around Atlantean mysteries in some sort of way. The UFO phenomenon, the the technological advancements of humanity today, the two groups of the mystery schools that are fighting against each other, dude. It's happening, and I'm excited to get into it with you, brother.
Yeah. And the new Atlantis, which I'm starting to see that affect this type of research too. That's a whole other angle. Maybe it'll come into, I don't know, frame today. We'll see. But so I think what we're going to have here is a convergence of material today. I'm going to let you take the lead on it, of course. I'm excited. But I've been looking at the traces of this old Atlantean empire and Cayce. And like I said, I had no idea that the new Atlantis, Francis Bacon stuff would sort of flow into this, but it does as well. But there's something. This is all stuff that the New Age ultimately connects with. Some call it the global Atlantean culture. That's a phrase I've heard. So I've been looking into that. I've got stuff today. If it comes up, great. Excerpts from Casey's readings about Atlantis, straight
Yes.
from straight from the readings. Right. I've got some of those. I've got some possible modern examples of how humanity today is engaging in ritual to bring more of this in. I've got an interview transcript with Paulina Zelensky, who found the pyramids off the tip of Cuba that some believe are part of the Atlantis civilization. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. But
Yeah.
I don't know, where are we gonna start? I'm excited.
I tell you what, let's get into Casey. But before I get into Casey, bro, I want to just kind of bring in Bible real quick because what we see in the end of the Bible reflects very well with what happened in the beginning of the Bible. And we know that in the times of Jared, right, the Genesis 6 event, there was fallen angels. They mated with, and copulated with human women. There was a Nephilim born race that was living amongst man. And I think that that has a lot to do with the story of Atlantis. And I think that when we get into Casey's work, you'll understand that what he did is he broke down the civilization to be into two groups, the law of one, right? And the sons of Belial. They're pretty much two groups of the same bird. And ultimately, they work together in one gigantic Hegelian dialectic. And what my point is behind that is because when Jesus says that the days of the Son of Man will be alike unto the days of Noah, right? I'm paraphrasing that, but everyone has kind of heard that in some sort of way. Well, those days of Noah were that Genesis 6 event, and there was some sort of paradigm within the discourse of the civilization in that time. And I think that it has a lot to do with the readings that Casey, Steiner, Blavatsky, and Plato, right? Like these are main components and big hitters here that have described Atlantis in multiple different ways, but they all kind of paint a generally like the same image. And so what I'm getting with that is when we look at the end of the Bible, you could see that in Revelation 17, there's something that's very specific that's drawn out for us. And I love how the revelation that John was kind of seeing here, right? It's the revelation of Jesus Christ, but John was the one that was receiving it. He was the one that was seeing what was going on. And in Revelation 17, it's showing, talking about, and describing the harlot. And the harlot is, we've done shows, how many shows on the goddess, right? So the harlot is that goddess. And it seems to be that she's a city and she sits on many waters here. And there's the kings of the earth fornicate with her. and she sits on 7 hills. There's 10 kings specifically. We know that there was 10 kingdoms in Atlantis. So what I'm saying here is that when we look at Revelation 17, we can draw some conclusions that this is the rise of an Atlantean empire. And when we look at Helena Blavatsky's work, we look at theosophy. She describes pretty much the evolution of mankind. She calls them the root races. And for people that don't know what the root races are, it's just think of them as stages. And then within those stages, you have sub stages. But a lot of these are specifically talking about races, right? Races of people, evolution of different groups of people. So when you have the first root race going all the way to the seventh root race, it's almost like the first root race is the beginning, and the seventh root race is the completion, is the end, is the revelation of her own religion known as theosophy. And so in the third root race, you have the Lumerian root race. In the fourth root race, you have the Atlantean root race. In the fifth root race, you have pretty much what we're in at the moment right now. We could be on the verge or on the threshold of going into the sixth root race. We'll see what happens with transhumanism, right? This is why they're pushing these things. We just don't know what the sixth root race looks like yet because it's not a part of history, so we can't reflect back on it and describe it and put it down on paper. Now, Steiner, Blavatsky, and Cayce, one thing also that they all had in common, right? Because these are people that are occultists, but they're more of like the white hats of the occult. Think of the mystery schools as broken down into two groups, just like how Casey kind of also talked about it, right? With the Law of One and the Sons of Belial, two groups. Well, you have these groups here that have different philosophies from one another, but they ultimately work together ignorantly. And I think it's because they're serving the same master, if that makes sense. Now, a good movie that will help people interpret what I'm saying. Think of the movie Star Wars. In the movie Star Wars, you have the Force, and it's the evil side and the good side that both have the abilities to use the Force, but it's how you use it that actually determines which side of the aisle there that you sit on with all of that.
Mm. Yeah, so something I want to comment on. You talked about you talked about the harlot and Babylon goddess connection there, and there's something here that caught my eye, and it sounds like it's got some Atlantean like verbiage here. I'll read it out. It's Jeremiah 51. Yeah, I'll skim a couple verses. One leading up to this, it says, "May the blood be avenged on the inhabitants of Chaldea," because it's talking about Babylon. "Babylon shall become a heap of ruin, a den of jackals." I'm gonna skip to 30 or verse 40. It says, "I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams and goats." How Shemshak is taken. Scholars say that that's a encoded word that means Babylon. I've been looking into it. I think it might have something to do with the bloodline attached to Babylon, but that's another time. How Shemshak is taken, the pride of the whole earth seized, how Babylon has become an object of horror among nations. Here you go. Now, listen to this. The sea has risen over Babylon. She has been covered by its tumultuous waves. The cities have become an object of horror. And I stopped. I kept going back. What is this saying? The sea has risen over Babylon and she's been covered by its waves. I just thought that was interesting, right? Because
Yeah.
I think what we're going to get into some today, like I said earlier, is these ruins that these groups are going out looking for. You mentioned the Belial group. I want to ask you about that, but I think that there are groups that have been influenced by them or directly connected to them who are actually going out and looking for these ruins. So I just think it's interesting that you've got the Babylon connection here, and there's this verse talking about it being covered by the waves of the sea, and we're talking about Atlantis. You get where I'm going with this, right?
Mhm.
But the Law of One is one group, and the Sons of Belial is another group.
Yes.
Okay, and this is all going back to Casey's work.
Yep. Yep.
They tried to apply his work. Sons of Belial, are they still around, and are they still being are they influential to the groups around today?
I guess what you could say is pretty much yes. It's almost like in Steiner's work, he's like, there's the force of Ahriman, right?
Right.
Think of like the force of Ahriman as being the same ideologies and the same philosophies as the sons of Belial. You've got like it's like this evil, dark, materialistic, independent dominionism. Y- they want to use technology ultimately for themselves. They're selfish, right? They're self-centered, and they ultimately want to control humanity, manipulate humanity. It's very similar to like how the Gnostics view the archons, right? And the demiurge. You've got the archons and the demiurge that seem to like keep us within this ignorant state. They're stealing our luge, right? And also that they're manipulating mankind to continuously stay within its circle. Right, they don't want humanity or whatever to break free and to pretty much understand, what the knowledge that they know, right? And you could see this right now happening, right? I mean, obviously got control and manipulation of the world by evil forces. It's completely obvious to the normal person. And why I think that information is now skyrocketing is because number one, we're in the information age and this information is getting out very easily. People can research now, right? I mean, it's like when the printing press came out times infinity. So people can go out and find this information themselves, and it's almost like people are starting to awaken, which I do think is part of the plan, right? Because I do think at the end of this story, you're going to have the rebellion, right, in Star Wars that ends up winning, right? That ends up defeating Darth Vader, that ends up rising to the top, and humanity is set free because that's part of the plan.
Mhm.
And the sons of Belial, right? Casey was known as the sleeping prophet. And this comes all from Casey, and he's the most recent, I'd say, clairvoyant of tapping into the Akashic records, having over 14,000 different meditation trances, and going and basically the New Age took a lot of Casey's work and they started to develop their own foundations and their own their own organizations and all of these things. And that's where the New Age is kind of today. You've got people like Alice Bailey, which she passed away, but she's an older New Age. But then now you've got people that evolved from her, like Barbara Marx Hubbard. She's passed away, but there's more coming. So what I'm saying is pretty much Casey had a huge impact on the New Age movement. Um, and where we're at today, it's the neo new age, right? It's just the new age. It's where pretty much you've got people like Matt LaCroix, who's basically going on Danny Jones's podcast, claiming that they're going to find that hidden knowledge under the Sphinx, right? And he's kind of clearly saying that his Bible is the Atlantean mysteries of Casey's work. Casey fell into those trances, right? Casey went into the Akashic records, saw visions of the future where a generation would come upon hidden knowledge that would give them self-remembrance and would cycle them back to who they once were, to the civilization that humanity once was. He's
Mhm.
the one that's known for the Hall of Records underneath the right paw of the Sphinx, in which now we've got Timothy Alberino is trying to work with Zahi Hawass, where basically you've always had this friction between pseudoscience and archaeology versus the mainstream science and archaeology, between the war of what who built the pyramids, who built the Sphinx, what civilization did it, when does it date back? Does it date back to 2500 BCE to 4000 BCE, or are we talking 10,000 BCE, which like Graham Hancock, a New Ager, or Randall Carlson? a New Ager, would be advocating that this dates back to 10,500 years ago. They know Casey's work. Casey was the one that claimed it was 10,500 years old. like
Mm-mm.
this is what's kind of funny to me, you know? I
Yeah,
mean,
that was the date that he put forward. I want to pause real quick and show you something because it
yeah.
goes along with what you're laying out. I think it's, you said you referenced more groups on the way because this Casey material is continuing to influence modern people and modern generations, right?
Mhm.
And I caught this thing this weekend. I'm gonna play this clip of this and I'm gonna see what you think. I caught a Casey reference in here, but this is a group that got together in Scotland. Let's see here. And had a oh,
They're probably a law of one group, right?
listen,
Like,
listen.
oh, I can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No. Let me see here.
Oh, well, okay. That's what I get for trying to pull up an Instagram reel on a show. I never do this. Um, I'll try it again. I'll try it again, and I'll just tell you what he's saying.
Okay.
And what we can do is we can edit this clip in for the actual show. But this is Robert Edward Grant. He's saying to the Palladians, to the Lyrans, to the Syrians, to the LSRE, to the Third Eye Atlas, we're grateful for you watching over us. We're ready to expand
Whoa.
now into a world where you're living among us. You've been here all along. It's only us now that are trying to remember who we are. We invite you to this place and helping us to build this new earth. We send our love to all those suffering in the world, the dissolution of our pain, transmutation into purpose. All our struggle was to bring us to this moment in time. And there were no mistakes. We chose this. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Wow.
But you see how many people are there.
Yeah.
His numbers are growing. Okay, he did a ritual in a courtyard in Scotland a couple weeks ago in front of a little goddess statue, and he had about 40 people out there, give or take. He's got hundreds out there this time around, and if you caught me transcribing what he said there in the beginning, he said the Arcturian aliens, or he didn't say aliens, but he's talked about the Arcturians. And he also says it references that this is a humanity crown chakra ritual. Okay, it's that sort of thing. So I want to show it. It's an example of how people are doing rituals to try and bring change into humanity. He might be using some Enochian methods as well because I've heard him talk about Metatron's cube. But he says to the Arcturians, to the Palladians, to the Lyrans, you'll hear that Lyran group come up in New Age circles. That's Earth's galactic, cosmic, ancient ancestors. And then the Arcturians, this is why I want to show this. The Arcturians connect directly back to Cayce. Here's the Arcturian. This happened this weekend, bro. That's why I'm telling you about this. They did this a couple days ago. And
Wow.
he's referencing, he starts this off and he says to the Arcturians. And the Arcturians are this extraterrestrial civilization from Arcturus. And I got a thing here. It says they first came to prominence after being mentioned in 1928 by American mystic Edgar Cayce. The concept was incorporated into many New Age movements, which imagine the Arcturians as benevolent beings seeking to share knowledge and wisdom with the Earthlings. They would be an advanced society with a high level of spiritual awareness and technological sophistication. So, and he also said that this was the first among three the first among 3 activations that they're going to do.
Wow.
And I'm sorry you couldn't hear the sound on that. But I did my best to try and tell you what he was
Well,
saying.
hopefully the audience can hear it, but
Yeah,
hopefully it was just something, on my side. But brother, this is happening. And that person there would be an advocate for the law of one. Do you see that there is like this resistance, this rebellion in the Star Wars allegory, right? Like this is what humanity is stirring up right now because it's naturally happening. And it's not only naturally happening, but it's also being done because of the work of Cayce and these other clairvoyants out there and these other channelers that are out there that are channeling these entities or these beings or whatever. Um, and I'm
yeah,
seeing it all over on Twitter. Like the culture is pushing this kind of stuff. And so because we've been beaten up so much, because we know how obvious it is that they're spraying chemtrails in the air, they're putting poisons in the food, the air we breathe, right, is unhealthy. Like the pineal gland, right? They're calcifying the water's bad. Like all these things have been pushed in the past 10 years purposely. And it's all been pushed by New Age advocates and New Age affiliates. And you get people that have gone on the biggest podcasts of all time, not knowing that these are New Age individuals. I mean, they've been going on shows, big shows. We've watched them. We've been fans of them. And it wasn't until I started to kind of get into this research where I'm making the connections and I'm looking at the network. And I'm actually looking at less of what they say and more of who these people are and who they're connected to. And that tells a separate story. It's very interesting, man.
yeah.
Um,
Can I
yeah,
just mention something else about that clip before we move on?
yeah.
And I'm not trying to derail us.
Oh no, you're good.
I think this fits in, um, because I've followed this guy, Robert Edgar Grant, the guy who was holding the makeup. I followed him for a while. I didn't know he was into starting his own sort of religious movement, though. I just thought he was a researcher. And we're starting to see a lot more of that too in this podcast sphere that you're speaking of. A lot of guys who were just researchers who would just tell you about the pyramids or Leonardo da Vinci or, old rocks or relics, out of place artifacts. These Randall Carlson, what's the other guy? Scott Walter types. What we're starting to see now is these guys move more into this spiritual podium where they're speaking more
Mhm.
about spiritual stuff, and it's got the new age lean to it. Like, the one I just showed. I don't know that I would have really showed that today unless I caught that very obvious Edgar Cayce connection. Like he's drawing heavily from Cayce because he starts the thing off talking about the Arturians, right? And he studies these mandalas and these circular patterns of sacred geometry. That's what I followed him in the first place. But now I've got a quote from him here. And I just want to show you how this group is incorporating this stuff into their message. This is happening right now, and you saw they're calling something down. They're referencing what we would consider aliens and asking them to come in and commune with us, make pacts with us, have
Help us
peace with us,
remember, right?
help us
Help us
remember
remember.
all this stuff. We know that all the strife of humanity was not, it was all for a purpose, and that purpose is now. It's all converging now. Come down, be with us. He says that mandalas, and I'm going to show you where they did this ritual because it's on an old, it's called King's Knot. It's like an earthwork. Okay. It looks like a UFO landing pad or something, but it's an earthwork. That this is what he says: mandalas and circular patterns have appeared throughout human history because geometry affects the way attention organizes itself. Ritual context, meditation, repetition, and disciplined practice amplify that effect. He's talking about using sacred geometry and ritual. And that's what they're doing there. I'm going to show you. He's a mathematician too. This guy's brilliant. Like, I'm not knocking him at all. I'm just trying to show some light on, the spiritual movement that these guys are pushing, right? He says math with meaning can become divine communication. So this guy
Mm.
he knows a thing or two about the mystery schools, right? Let me show you where they did this ritual from. Look at this. See that? It's called King's Knot. Look at that.
That looks like that looks like kinda how Atlantis was drawn out,
That's
right?
what I'm saying, bro.
Well, I'll tell you this, there's a lot of goddess cults that would do their sacrifices
This
in patterns like that,
that's what I looked
specifically in
into
the
it.
dragon court.
That's what
That
I was thinking because this is in Scotland, bro. This is the home of
oh,
well,
jeez.
it's where Freemasonry really got its start. It's where the Templars hid out after they got kicked out of well, they got ran off by Philip the Fair. They went to Scotland. This is an area known for heavy mystery school activity, and this this is sitting next to Stirling Castle, which was involved with the 1314 Battle of Bannockburn, which is steeped in Templar lore. And you'll see he wears a little what looks like a modified Templar cross sometimes on a necklace. So he might be connected with the Templars too. But this particular area right here, this earthwork is. I looked into it enough to find that it's been facilitated by bloodlines since around 1100s. And,
Wow.
these castles are typically on ancient sites as well, sites of magic. Like, we talked about this on another episode, Wivelsburg Castle, on a site of ancient magic where the Norse last practiced connecting their arts to the dark prince and all kinds of other crazy things that they talked about. But, so who knows what all this is connected to, but I just think it's interesting that this is happening right now, and Grant also said, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you, but he also said he was at the he opened a Stargate at the pyramid recently. I'm looking for the quote on it. He says that he says he opened a Stargate in the King's Chamber. This was on February 10th, and as he commanded it to open, the lights on the Giza Plateau went out.
Really?
And he says they brought in the new Earth through the Stargate on February 10th at the King's Chamber. You know, through a
Wow.
Stargate. People think we're messing around on these podcasts. We're just trying to talk about weird stuff. I think what you're going to see is you, you come and see me and Steven in 10 years, and we'll see if we were messing around.
Right.
Because this stuff,
Right.
people are doing this stuff.
I know. I know, man. Well, I mean, look at what they're doing in Egypt, right? They're using SAR technology. They're shooting, uh, you know, uh, rays down where they can see subterranean, topography almost. We don't need to dig anymore. Like there's no need for excavation necessarily, but they're getting ready to because it's been teased so much by the pseudo archaeological community. And now science is merging with that. And I watched on Pierce Morgan the other day. Pierce Morgan had Zahi Hawass. He had Timothy Alberino. He had a few other people up there that are advocates that are pushing the Sons of Belial narrative to awaken humanity to go towards the Sons of the Law of One agenda, let's just call it. And what's fascinating is that Alberino said to Zahi Hawass, he's like, "Hey, I have a team ready to go. I want to work with you. We have drone technology where we can go over the pyramids and we can do scans and we can look and see what is, hidden within the pyramids and underneath the pyramids, and also, what's going on with the Sphinx. Is there even a second Sphinx, right? Which I do think that there's two because there were two that set next to and beside Rhea and Cybele or Kybele or Cybele, right? These mother goddesses. I even think that why you have three pyramids there, the Khafre pyramids, like why you have those three there is because it directly reflects with Hermeticism and the doorways of Hermeticism. Why is there even such a thing as the Osiris myth? The Osiris myth is about starting in the underworld, getting pulled back up into the material realm, and going and becoming a god and ascending into the celestial realm. Those are three doorways that I just mentioned there. We have three pyramids. And I think that what we're seeing here is some sort of city that they were trying to that I believe that people stumbled across, and it was of the old world, but it was the archaeology and the architecture of it screams goddess worship. It just screams goddess worship because I think
Mhm.
we have a that much better of a picture of what the goddess is in Revelation 17. And what I'm saying about with the hermetic doorways and all of this, I'm seeing it everywhere, brother.
Oh, it's in the Leonardo da Vinci paintings,
Yes.
and that's one thing. It's
It
really
was
interesting.
real quick, it was
Yeah,
at the, rededication of America under God, the ceremony that they had, the 250th anniversary of the United States, right? We're
yeah.
rededicating America under God. Well, if you look at the celebration that they did, um, they had the 3 doorways
Mm.
with the realm of reality, the realm of the physical world, being the biggest doorway, being that middle doorway. And that's why when you look at all of these archaeological ancient megaliths and findings, you always see this pattern where there's these the three. There's one small door on the left, there's one big door in the middle, and there's one small door on the right. And it's what they want to bring into our world as a part of the new religion, man. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
a lot of philosophies that come with it.
As shown here in The Last Supper by Da Vinci. And what I think is interesting and maybe a bit of a synchronicity here is that when I started following our friend Robert Edward Grant there, the man with the megaphone, right? He was breaking down Da Vinci's artwork and he was pointing out all the sacred geometry in it. And I do remember him mentioning that there was something to these three windows in the background. And so I think these people know all about this stuff and are incorporating it into their modern rites, rituals, and spiritual endeavors.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to show people what you're talking about by the three windows.
Yeah,
It-
dude, I'll share this. I'll share this picture here. This is wild, bro. Oh, this is wild. All right, so okay, so
What do you think
share.
about that king's knot, though? That thing looks
Oh
like
yeah.
is it? I think it's an ancient site, man. But they're saying it. They're saying
Oh,
it doesn't go back that
I'm
far.
I'm
But I mean, I think it does.
I'm glad you brought that up, man. You see it? You see it on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yes, I see it.
You see it, right? So if I come here, this
Oh, I
is
see it. Yeah.
and look at the obelisk in the background too, by the way. I
Of
don't even know
course.
what that's going on there. But right here you have the rededication of America under God, 250th anniversary of the United States. You have 3 windows within 3 windows here. The left side is that underworld window. The middle is that reality plane, that physical world window, and then on the right, you have the celestial window, which there's a picture of Trump there, which is kind of interesting with stars on it as well. But then right here, you could see that the middle window is the biggest window, right? And this goes even back to the Temple of Ionis. This goes back to multiple different sites. There's sites in Peru, there's sites in Egypt, there's sites in the Turkey area. It's all over the place. Like, why do you think in Gobekli Tepe, right, that their structures that are magnificent are drawn out in a T form, or they're created in a T form? The stones are like in a T, right? That T is an allegory, is metaphorical for a left side, a right side, and that middle that you can pass through. And so what I was getting at with, Egypt and pretty much how do I stop? Did it stop sharing? Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Um, what I'm getting at with Egypt and all of this stuff between the mainstream and the pseudo side of archaeology is they're coming together, and they're coming together in a timed event. And what's going to happen is we're going to see something come to. uh, come to life out there. We're going to see what I believe as Casey's work, the sleeping prophet. We're going to see a prophecy be fulfilled. I think that they're going to dig, they're going to access, and they're going to find. And they're going to dig, number one, because they're going to actually see that there is a hall down there. And what is the hall in its purpose? Its purpose is to fill it with knowledge and to secure it and protect it for future generations. This is, what we see from the idea of ancient gods such as Hermes, Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus. We get this whole kind of idea that there was these nomads, these nomad gods that walked around, and they carried ancient knowledge with them. And so I think that whole idea is metaphorical as well to Casey's prophecy for our generation today. If they find stuff down there in the Hall of Records, which I believe to, be something that's going to really cause humanity to resurge from its the evil powers of today, they're going to find a few things. I think they're going to find a story of creation. They're going to find a story of a beginning. They're going to find the stories of the ancient root races, right? The third and the fourth root race, Lumerian and the Atlantean root race. And it's going to be one gigantic self realize to humanity because they've come across ancient knowledge and wisdom that helps them remember. I mean, does that kinda make sense
Yeah,
with all
yeah.
that?
And I'm gonna throw in one more thing because it just came to mind about Robert Edward Grant because I looked into him a little bit. I wanted to see kind of what this guy was all about these days. And he said he was at Egypt. This is before he opened the Stargate. He has another story that he told on a podcast where they were in the pyramid and they were saying a prayer
Mm,
and they felt a shock come up from below. And he said the shock came up and they felt it through their feet. It came up from this area down beneath there where all the LiDAR scans are coming out. So I
mm.
think it's just another example of, if what he's saying is true, another example of people connecting with this hollow records down beneath their feet below Egypt, right? And because you're saying they're going to dig, they're going to find, and something's going to come out of this Egypt stuff. And I believe that that's going to happen. I think there's something down there that's very old and very ancient, and people don't need to be playing around with it. But Casey said that it was connected to, I believe he was trying to say and convey that it was connected to Atlantis,
Mhm,
this Egypt site. And in fact, I think in one reading he says it connected through the Pyrenees Mountains. So there was like, if you think about a signal bouncing from tower to tower, that sort of a thing. There was the Egypt signal passed through Europe, passed through the Pyrenees Mountains, which is a very mystical place, very old place. It's a place where Howard Hughes was studying portals. It's a place where locals there to this day know about portal locations. They believe in it. Like this is not, oh, ha ha ha, the portals. No, there's actual something going on there where you can go and experience a portal if you know the right person. It passed through that area and bounces over to probably another place and then on to Atlantis. But there's
That's the
something
thing
that
too, like Casey taught a few things about Atlantis and how it connects to Egypt, and specifically, he gets into that Atlantis was a real advanced civilization, and that it was destroyed because of, multiple cataclysms, right? Which what do we hear today? We hear that, "Oh, man, like, wars and rumors of wars, nuclear fallout. Oh, man, like, we could" pandemics, like, all this stuff where we're like, dude, like humanity is kind of like on the brink of destroying itself. Also, that he talked about pretty much that that there were survivors of the Atlantean civilization, right? Because this cataclysm didn't wipe everything out completely. And real quick, like full disclaimer, I think the cataclysm was the flood. I think God at the flood, he destroyed things because he knew, I think, where things were going to get, and plus God could just do what he wants. He's you know, th we think we've got it figured out, and we don't. Like, he knows what's the intent behind humanity, so I think what he was doing had a great purpose to it. So, Casey also said that these survivors of the Atlantean Empire, the Atlantean civilization, that they carried the advanced knowledge with them, right? And I think that this is could have been a few ways. Maybe it was, they did it on certain stones, or they just withheld it inside of them because it became their spiritual practice. That they basically traveled and they made their way to Egypt, and they came across the picture of this, right? Like, let's say a cataclysm happens, the flood happens, which I think the what Casey's talking about here is directly connected to Ham, and then Cush, and then Nimrod, and then the finding of Babylon, right? So it's like
Yeah.
all of this stuff is kind of
Oh,
connected
yeah.
here. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying here?
Yeah, brother.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm telling you, this is
That's
this is the same
that's
thing.
what that's what I found in that verse, and I'm not gonna linger on it, but when I told you about that weird word that I was looking at in
Yes,
Jeremiah
yes, bro.
51, it's talking about Babylon, and then Jeremiah uses this other strange word, Sheshach, and I looked into it, and I told you it was a bloodline, right? I think it's a bloodline connected to the Cushites.
There you go. You have the surviving Atlanteans making their way to Egypt, and what did they do, right? They decided to, put that knowledge, write it down. This is where you get the introduction of their gods as Thoth, right? Which is like
Yeah.
Hermes in the Greeks, and pretty much this god of wisdom, right? Um, and knowledge. And so, what's very interesting of this is that this is Casey's claims here, when the Atlantean survivors made their way to Egypt, they established what's known as the mystery schools. And so think of like humanity kind of going through cycles. And as they go through cycles, they revisit the same thing. Another cycle happens, they revisit the same thing. Nothing changes under the sun. So when you have in Egypt the establishment of the mystery schools, don't you have to understand that it could have started and this is in their interpretation, where it was a good thing, right? It was like kind of Alice Bailey's New Age, Lucis Trust, like light, love, truth, and all of this. But then people got that knowledge and then twisted it and made it spurious. And so that right there is all umbrellaed under one gigantic mystery school. Like, don't get it twisted when someone starts talking about it in a certain way where it's really good and it sounds good and it's seducing. Understand, it's all of the mystery schools. So pretty much when Egypt developed the mystery schools, there became a spurious branch of it. And this is where you start to get some of these groups that came out of there, went out over into the Greek area, went out up into the Turkey area, went over back into the Mesopotamian area, went over to the Palestine area, and they just branched out and spread throughout the world. But Casey talks as well that pretty much um that the survivors, they encoded wisdom into monuments, and that they were writing these things down, storing them, burying them as records beneath the Sphinx, right? And he's the one that's known, man, for pretty much, with that prophecy of that the Hall of Records is the access point is the right paw of the Sphinx. And we know today that there is an access point there. So my point is that pretty much with all of that I just said, humanity is right on the edge of refinding all of this kind of material. And what's that going to do to humanity? What's that going to do to religion? What's that going to do to civilization today? It's going to only expose that much more of the dark forces that really run this world, ultimately pushing humanity to a false light.
Uh-huh.
And that's my opinion, but I know it's gonna happen. And it's like what Tim said earlier. He's like, "Yo, dude, like these podcasts, you get to like 10 years from now, like, hey, like we'll have it. We'll repost it as a throwback. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Where we told you
Yeah.
so."
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, that's yeah, we could I've thought about doing it with some episodes I did in 2024, just being like, "Hey, I know people thought I was nuts, uh, concerning some of the things I was talking about." And now it's just like everybody's on board with it, like things happen, things change, we move forward, our understanding moves forward, our knowledge increases, and we realize that what was taboo just 2 years ago is today's reality. And you've got things like the Epstein files that happen, and big portions of people sort of wake up, or they're rattled, and they're at least paying attention somewhat, right? Not speaking to, the legitimacy of the whole Epstein drama situation. But yeah, I'm with you. And like, that's another thing that I know people were looking at me cross eyed when we talked about this bloodline of Cush, that the sons of Noah, and specifically Cush, moving up into Egypt and settling there. And it seems like those gods came out of that group, Cush and his family.
It's
Nimrod
like,
comes out
dude,
of that.
yeah,
And why
go
did
ahead,
they
go ahead.
but here's the thing, why did they go to Egypt and settle there?
I think they knew that
The
was the
records.
location.
Yeah,
They had yeah, I like
that's the location. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It's kinda like if me and you were,
People think you're nuts for saying that too, and
I
it's like,
know, I know.
it's in all the material. Sorry, go
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, look at the water erosion around the base of the Sphinx and then the wind erosion up it towards, like, the shoulder and the upper part of the Sphinx. That there just goes alone to show you that that area, that those monuments were there prior to the flood. It were there in the antediluvian period and were used in some sort of way, right? Like you were talking about as maybe a repeater or a generator and a repeater for what we're going to see in the near future, known as zero point energy or free energy for everybody, right? Which I think to have a strong connection to the goddess and the harlot because she's the life and the living of all things. It's kind of like Steiner's work where he's talking about how these UFOs or the technology of the Atlantean empire actually functioned off of life force energy. He actually compares it in his book, Cosmic Memory, where he's talking about how there is a difference between the force and the energy that a plant gives off and the force and the energy that burning fuels give off. It's the same kind of concept. It moves things forward. It's just done in a separate way. One's done in a new age way and a way of like helping the economy and helping the world and being all, green, right? All that stuff's new age, but it's again, like I'm not throwing that part out with the not throwing the baby out with the bathwater with that, right? Like if we I understand the science behind it, but this stuff is a movement. And so I wanted to get back to basically the Hall of Records. And so Casey talks about that pretty much that there's a hidden chamber down there that's beneath the Sphinx. It's accessible through underground tunnels, and that it's connected to the pyramids, right? And that the chamber supposedly contains a bunch of different things. Some of these things are as far as like scrolls, artifacts, things like Atlantean technology, right? I mean, what else do we hear about today with like, for example, Bob Lazar, right? Another New Age affiliate. Basically, Bob Lazar is a guy who came out of nowhere in the 1990s, early 1990s. He's the one that kind of blew the lid off about Area 51. He worked at a secret location right by Area 51 near Papoose Lake, known as S4.
Yes.
And he was a part of a program that was reverse engineering craft that was not from this world. That right there screams theosophy to me. Anything to where there's like, remember where you came from, or like, hey, this has been here before us. All that kind of stuff goes back to theosophy for me. And you could find your way there with the rabbit hole. But Bob pretty much is in the 90s advocating and talking about Atlantean technology. He's just doing it through a UFO, UAP, non-human intelligent lens. And that's the lens that they're giving humanity right now. Number one, because it's very popular, it's seducing, and it's very intriguing. There is something to it, but it's all part of the Atlantean mystery and the Atlantean empire coming back into this world. Now, do I think that we do have technology like this? Sure, because I think it got buried or destroyed in the flood, right? It's things that were maybe a part of civilization, you know, back when humanity was using zero point energy in a different way, using it also in a spiritual way. But that's some things that pretty much Casey talks about finding
Yeah.
in these chambers. And then he's also going to say that there's historical records like for humanity down there, right? And
Mhm.
then there you go. That right there, historical records for humanity, that is a Bible, my friend. That is a Bible for the secular world and for the whole world that is ready to accept something like that.
Yeah, and we don't have to stray too far from this, but I just wanna add in that it's not just Egypt, as you well know, like, we could get into Bimini and the Two-Eye Stone and all that because it's not just ruins in Egypt. There's what you don't hear about is the people who have quietly been looking through this stuff in the Atlantic as well. And I have the quote
Mhm.
here. Casey said that a portion of the temples may yet to be discovered under the slime of the ages and seawater near Bimini. Little
Yeah, Graham Hancock, man, he was
Bimini
snorkeling and
Road.
he was diving at Bimini Road, bro.
Right. They've talked about and they keep finding all this stuff. That's what I was if I could circle back to the beginning when I talked about Paulina Zelensky finding pyramids at the western tip of Cuba. They are finding this stuff. And all these people, this is what I've come to find. All these people are going back to these Casey readings to help them in their search and in their investigation of this stuff. Because
Oh, yeah.
he basically predicted that this Atlantean temple would rise up out of Bimini. I don't know how that looks like. I don't know if they thought the water level was going to drop or what, but and then you get the two eye stone that comes out of this, and it's been suggested that that means this is going into dark journalist research because he's looked into this a lot. So I did listen to him some, and he says he thinks that the two eye stone it actually means stone of the people, right?
Mhm.
Or people of the stone, but basically stone of the people. Think about like this, like there's a they had a huge stone and they used it. It was like a power station to them. Essentially, it was this power grid we're talking about. This somehow plugged into that, or possibly was the nucleus of that two-eye stone. And it was a source which had a spiritual and mental context that Casey said that in one of the readings. So, and what they would do is they would apparently teach people how to be priests of this stone, how to interact with it, and you know, just I think about like imagine because people do this today on YouTube with these little crystals. They do these Reiki sessions with these little crystals. This is like a giant boulder sized crystal that these people would use, and I always like kind of laugh about it. I always think like about the YouTube Reiki people dancing around this giant crystal trying to morph the energy of it and stuff like that. And that's
Right.
possibly what they were actually doing back in the day with this, though.
Yeah, and I think like Casey kind of calls how the technology was ran at some point, but it was heavy into crystal technology, right? Like
Yeah.
the Two-Eye Stone, the Firestone, it has a lot to do with that, and we can see how the generation today is still using crystals for healing and all these things. Casey was a healer, right? He would call people on the phone and heal them over the phone. He would, he would. It's one thing that he was very big in was holistic medicine, which is another new age movement too. But again, I think there's some things there with it, right? But anytime I've come across something and I know it's connected to new age organizations, I'm going to say it from now on. But there's a strong connection, brother, with the two eye stone, the fire stone, right? Why do you think it's called the Firestone? What that sounds to me is like a meteorite falling from heaven to earth and holding some sort of power and wisdom and knowledge, where then humanity was able to use that stone in whatever ways that it could. We've done goddess shows, right, where we talk about the Kaaba, right, being this meteorite stone that in the old pre-Islamic pagan religions, they worshipped this stone specifically under the god Alat, right? Alot is this female goddess, right? That is has a strong and a direct connection to Venus. That in which this was a stone that fell from heaven, and they worship it as a goddess. Why does Egypt supposedly have two sphinx now, right? We only know that there's one definitively, but they're saying that they're going to excavate the other and that they've found the other. I don't know how true all of this is, but we'll see. And if there is two sphinxes, that means that that there is representing the two lions on the side of Rhea and on the side of Cabelli, right? It's the
Mm,
chariot of of the goddess that
yeah,
these beasts pull her with,
right.
and they ultimately serve as protectors. The Ishtar Gate, represented as a lion, right? Now they're lion bodies, but they're heads of it's the head of a pharaoh. But you'll speak with Atlantean pseudo archaeologists, and they'll claim that the heads of these sphinxes were actually lions
Yeah.
before pharaohs and emperors and
It looks
kings
like
took them over.
it looks like it got recarved because if you look at the aerial shots of the Sphinx, the head is
So small.
so ridiculously small compared to the rest of the body. So
Hmm.
whatever was there, think about a big old lion's head with a mane and all that. They could have easily chiseled away at that and recreated another image, in that being the image of a pharaoh. And I think you're killing it right now with that because the possibilities of that being a lion. It's a great point. Going back to Ishtar and Inanna, she was often shown in the Sumerian reliefs with the two lions on each side of her. It's the trope with this goddess throughout the ages. The goddess names her name changes, co- depending on what time it is or timeline it's on, and depending on what people group it is. But often you'll see her with the two lions. I mean, I've got an old Cybele relief where she's rolling up in a chariot being pulled by these lions. And they're kinda chimeric, but they have lion paws and, like, mane
Hmm.
and stuff, and it's pulling her up right to this castle thing, the fortress, the goddess of the fortress. She wears the castle on her head, we've talked about all that, but here's one of the readings, man, that talks about the Firestone. I gotta show you this, reading 4405. The records of the manners of construction of the Firestone are in 3 places in the earth: in the sunken portions of Atlantis or Poseidia, where a portion of the temples may yet to be discovered, under the slime of the ages of seawater, near what is known as Bimini off the coast of Florida, and in the temple records that were in Egypt, where the entity later acted in cooperation with others in preserving the records that came from the land where these had been kept. Also, the records that were carried to what is now Yucatan in America, Yucatan Peninsula, right there in this area. Like you've got the the pyramids that were found off the tip of Cuba, right across the water. There's the Yucatan Peninsula, right?
Hmm.
And it says also the records were carried to Yucatan, were these stones that they know so little about are now, during the last months, being uncovered. So he's in this reading, he's talking about somebody actually was finding something at the time. That's what it sounds like, possibly in the Yucatan. In the Yucatan, there's an emblem of the same. Let's clarify this, for it may be the most easily found, for they will be brought to the Americas, to the United States. A portion will be carried, as we find, to Pennsylvania, to the Pennsylvania State Museum. A portion will be carried to Washington and to Chicago. So this is an interesting reading. He's identifying the 3 places where there's records. He's saying Egypt, Poseidia, Atlantis near Bimini, and then the Yucatan Peninsula. And then he's saying whoever finds some of these records are going to bring them to America. He even mentions Washington, like Washington, D.C.
Wow. Yeah.
So who knows what that's all about? If he was seeing something that was happening at the time, maybe people in our government have some of these records or these power stones or what have you. He says Atlantis was the size in comparison. This is a different reading. This is reading 364-6. Atlantis was the size in comparison to that of Europe, including Asia and Europe, not Asia, but Asia and Europe. That's, I don't know why it's worded that weird, but uh, this composed as seen in or after the first destruction, that which would be termed now with the present position, the southernmost portion of the same islands as created by those of the first. This is like crazy to try and wrap your head around what he's trying to say here, but I think he's saying that the size of Atlantis was kind of kind of the size of Europe, including parts of Asia. So it would fit across the Atlantic Ocean essentially.
Mm, wow. That's big.
Yeah, it's big, it's big,
It's
and
big.
I mean, hopefully I didn't get us off track too hard with
No,
that
no,
because
no, no.
yeah.
That's fascinating, man, because you know, and I've always kind of had this thought where uh when we see in Revelation and we see the beast coming out of the sea, you know, is that kind of and again, I could be you know, butchering this to you know, people who are scholars of the Bible and, you know, they know for sure, right? Like what the sea represents. But the beast kind of coming out of the sea almost makes me think like there is this empire that's going to come back up out of the sea. I can only
That's
kind of have this kind of this idea, man. I don't know, and I
possible.
know that it has other meanings to it, but I'm just gonna say what my mind's kind of wrapping around.
That's here's the one I meant to read. The reading 364-3, the position as the continent Atlantis occupied is that as between the Gulf of Mexico on one hand and the Mediterranean on the other. Evidences of this lost civilization are to be found in the Pyrenees and Morocco on the one hand, British Honduras, Yucatan, and America on the other hand. So he's saying this was spread out like what you're saying.
Mm,
Like if there was this beast thing that rises from the sea. This is, you know, and it says there are protruding portions within this that must have been at one time or other a part of the great continent, the British West Indies or the Bahamas. He's saying that was all part of Atlantis at one point, and this is just what's left, what's sticking up out of the ocean. And then the last thing I'll touch on with these readings was this one. And this is the one I think a lot of the New Agers went out and tried to literally hunt down. It's reading 958-3, and it says Poseidia will be among the first portions of Atlantis to rise again. And then Bimini in 1968, they found the Bimini Road, and they think that this is part of the Cayce prediction coming true. That this was
mm,
Bimini Road was part of Poseidia, and that's part of Atlantis that is starting to rise again or be found again.
wow. And you know what's crazy too? It's like if this beast coming out the sea that's I think in Revelation 13, but if we look in Revelation 17, the harlot is riding the beast. I'm almost thinking that w- if there is a new age world order that's going to rise out of the current new world order, you know, maybe I'll read some quotes here so
Yeah.
people can kind of get an understanding of what I mean by that. Because we've all heard of the New World Order. We all have heard of all of these dark forces of the world and what they're capable of doing and what they want to do. Well, there's going to be a new age world order, in my opinion, that comes out of that new world order. And it's almost like they're pushing hard for the new world order so that humanity does come into this resurgence to rise out of the prison planet that's trying to be developed here. And
You
so
know,
you
it's
have out you see what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, you know, it does say something about the waters and the whore being seated in the waters. It talks
Mhm.
about that in Revelation 17.
Yeah. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
waters are many tongues, nations, kindreds, and all the pretty much the whole world is fornicating and drinking from her cup, right? The cup that we see Rhea holding, that we see Semiramis holding, that we even see in some depictions, you know, Cabela even having at some certain times. And I think that has everything to do with pharmakia, I think sorcery and all of these things. It's not weird to me to see that ibogaine is now passed under an executive order to where you can basically use a very powerful psychedelic drug for mental health today. That's step 1 for that drug. Step 3 or 4 will make it recreational. We've seen the same process with many other different drugs out there. But what's the purpose of these drugs? The purpose is to lower intellect and increase intuition and to connect people more with technology so that they would use it in a spiritual matter, in a spiritual way, just like the sons of the Law of One, according to Cayce, and how they used the Firestone technology. The Law of One was using the technology for the good of mankind and also to ascend the human being spiritually, right? Um, not They didn't want to use it how the Belial group decided to use it, which again, the Belial group was responsible for that great cataclysm, the multiple cataclysms, right? The multiple resets of life and its progress, right? So my point with that is you're you're going to see at some point a flip in our world today. You're going to see a flip with this technology and the philosophies of it. Right now, it's being pushed that, you know, we're going to get digital IDs, we're going to be putting wearables on, right? Heart math and Game B and all of these other weird technocrat projects that are being done. You're going to see it flip and turn because humanity is going to do it on its own because it's almost like what we've seen in politics with Biden, right? In the last 4 years before President Trump came in, humanity was beat up for so long, for 4 years. And it was obvious to every single one of us that then humanity was influenced and inspired to vote for Donald Trump. But then Donald Trump comes in, does all of these interesting things, right? Talking about very good things. But he established Stargate. He established, you know, he brought in Palantir. He brought in Oracle. He brought in all of these things to really establish things that really are detrimental for humanity. So I think we're going to see is where if we get to the point of Casey's prediction, where they find this material, it's going to flip humanity into doing these things for spiritual ascension rather than it's transhumanism. It's just in a different way. If you kind of catch what I'm saying. So Alice Bailey talks about this in her book. She talks about it in many different books, right? She's got the treatise on white magic. She's got the externalization of the hierarchy. She's got the destination of nations. She's got the reappearance of Christ. These are many different books that she's written. And for example, in the externalization of the hierarchy on page 570, you have what she says: the great mysteries of the ages will be revealed, and this revelation will bring humanity together under a new world religion. This new faith will be based on the universal truth that all religions point to the same divine source and all paths lead to the same truth. She also says in the reappearance of the Christ here that she says, when the Christ returns, he will not only bring a message of love and unity, but will also reveal the hidden knowledge of the divine plan, the knowledge that has been kept secret for centuries. This knowledge will be understood by all, and humanity will be guided into a new world order. So, what she's saying here when she's talking about a knowledge that has been kept secret for centuries. She's specifically identifying the dark forces of this world, the archons, the demiurge, right? All these things that we're hearing nowadays. These are the evil forces of the mystery schools that are keeping this knowledge in the adepts and keeping it for themselves because they don't want humanity to awaken. But I do think that what Casey and his prophecy have talked about, it will awaken humanity. I just kind of, I just feel like that's what's going to naturally happen, right? Um, I don't know. I mean, there's so many other, I mean, quotes here too. Where, let me see here. So, um, okay, here's a good one. The externalization of the hierarchy, page 536. She says, the new religion will be the product of a world that has been freed from the influence of the dark forces that have hidden the truth from humanity. As the veil is lifted, people will recognize that the same spiritual truth underlies all religions. This understanding will foster a new sense of unity, and the new world religion will arise as a means of uniting humanity under the principles of divine love and wisdom. And so when I'm saying a new age world order, I'm actually saying the new world religion will rise out of the new world order, the cabal, the deep state, all of that stuff.
Yeah, some of the language she was using there, that was Alice Bailey, correct?
Yeah, Alice Bailey. Yeah.
Some of the language she's using there parallels quite closely with what Robert Edward Grant was saying with behind the megaphone there in Scotland over the weekend.
Mm.
Same concept. This
Hmm.
idea that the scales are going to fall from people and this spiritual movement is going to come in and where people are going to inhale it from the cosmos and all this knowledge is going to come in with it and people are going to open their eyes and laser beams are going to shoot and they're going to have gnosis. They're going to have this
Gosh,
singularity
wait, he said laser
universe.
beams?
No, I'm adding that because I'm being
Oh man,
not just
because
being goofy with that.
no, dude, because David Wilcock actually says that, we're going to have a sunburst that's actually going to do that to humanity. I'm not even tripping, dude. David Wilcock, the New Ager, that
Yeah.
literally would
Oh yeah.
fall in line with all this.
Yeah.
Even Casey's work. He even advocated for Casey's work.
There's a lot of, and I don't want to put any ideas in anybody's head, but there's a lot of these guys right now that are saying basically the same thing in their own little separate camps. And it's like if they ever got in a room together, they'd probably be on the same page and make this thing happen. And it actually would be. It's something
Mhm,
akin to a new world religion because there's a lot of people in separate camps. Like I said, going on about all this in their own type of way, but you could see the similarities. It's like I see the similarities with Alice Bailey's quote and with what Robert Edward Grant's doing with his spiritual movement right now, because that looks like a spiritual movement to me. What I showed earlier,
mhm,
and they're calling something down. And as far as the quotes go, you brought up Revelation 17, so I was just skimming it right after you brought it up a minute ago, and I saw some crazy stuff. I got to throw this in. Things were jumping out at me that I had seen before, and first of all, last verse of chapter 17 in Revelation is the woman you saw is the great city
mhm,
that rules over the kings of the earth. Like you're saying, there is scriptural biblical precedent for saying that she is also a city, right? And then if you back up to Revelation 16, verse 19, it says, the great city was split into three parts, and the cities of that nation fell. And God remembered great Babylon and gave her the wine cup of his fury and his wrath. There's that cup showing up. Might not be the same cup, but it's a cup. It's cup symbolism, like grail
mhm.
symbolism almost. And it says every island fled away and no mountains were to be found. It's like something happened to the islands. It's interesting. And huge hailstones weighing each about 100 pounds dropped from heaven on people until they cursed God for the plague of the hail. So fearful was that plague. And then if you skip a little bit further, jump into at that point you're at chapter 17. So if you go into chapter 17 some, you see where it says the waters. No, I'll back up. These are united in yielding their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them. For he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings. And those with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he said to me, the waters that you saw, where the whore is seated, are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, and they, the beast, will hate the whore, and they will make her desolate and naked. They will devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put into their hearts to carry out his purpose by agreeing to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of the Lord will be fulfilled. Just throwing it in there, you got the
I mean, it yeah.
go
It's
ahead.
wild that God actually puts it on the hearts of the beast and the kings to
Yeah.
turn and devour the mother,
Yeah.
right? When you if anyone has read Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop, you could see that when he's talking about in his book, he's clearly drawing out how in the mythologies there's always a relationship between the goddess and her son. And the relationship and how they're established, it's very dynamic. It's not like how we would naturally have a relationship with our kid if you're a mother. The child from the mother is actually the spirit of her husband. And in most mythologies, the mother goddess is present first before the husband comes into the picture. Then in the mythologies, you'll have where it kind of changes slightly because it's mystery religion. And the husband and mother, the wife, would be in a relationship, but then the husband dies, goes down into the underworld. The point that she the part that she plays in this entire thing is that she's the mother of all living. And I think that when the beast and the kings turn, right, on mother, it's actually God making the Antichrist kill his own mother slash wife in a relationship allegory, right? Because in the mythologies, they've always lived in harmony once they reunited back together, right? And it's the goddess that is responsible for bring that having the magical power, right? Because Isis was known as being a goddess of magic. She had the power to bring her husband's spirit out of the underworld of Cyrus up into the physical material plane, impregnate herself, and then, you know, um, basically deliver the baby, the baby then has the spirit of her husband. And so it's a consort and a child, and it's a weird dynamic. But I find it funny because it's God kind of backhanding the goddess. You could even see here in Revelation 17, it's the judgment of the goddess, right? It's God's judgment on the harlot.
Oh yeah.
It's the final one, right? It's like,
Oh,
hey, I've been at war with you throughout the whole entire Bible. Guess what? When it's finally your time and that eighth king has come and that king is ruling in your city, I'm going to put it on his heart to overthrow you, overthrow the matriarchy with the patriarchy, but destroy you in the same exact time.
yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah, and that part there, you said that I've been at war with you throughout the whole Bible. It's a big timeline. That makes me wonder too if some of the language we're seeing here in Revelation 16, 17, and then as it finalizes and the situation comes to an end in 18, if some of that language isn't hearkening back to the destruction of, we'll call it Atlantis, whatever the pre-flood empire was, is some of that being sprinkled in here as things that have happened already, or is it stuff that's still yet to happen? And it's going to happen in a way that's reminiscent of that flood and the judgment on what we'll just call Atlantis, right? For sake of
Mhm.
moving forward. But yeah, you know, it's the showdown. It's Revelation 18. It's, you know, fallen, and he called out with a mighty voice, fallen is Babylon the Great. It has become a dwelling place of demons, a haunt of every foul spirit, a haunt of every foul bird, a haunt of every foul and hateful beast. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of her wrath, of her fornication, and the kings of earth have committed fornication with her. It's like talking about a network here. Like, the kings of earth were involved with this, like almost like a network would be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and that would be lead to what I want to ask you, which is, will the Antichrist, do you think, reunite with these Atlantean stones, this technology, these perhaps the tablets? What was Casey talking about in that reading with these tablets being found and taken to Washington?
I think he's going to be the world teacher that Alice Bailey talks about, known as Maitreya. And I think he's going to be the world teacher to teach us about these mysteries. He's going to initiate the world to follow his path, and he's going to lead humanity out of the chaos. We're in a chaotic world, brother. Like, and it's going to get worse. The world's going to be primed to look for a savior to lead us out of this thing. And what's interesting, according to Alice Bailey's work, the Maitreya is the Antichrist, that world teacher, right? For example, the Antichrist is a counterfeit of Jesus Christ. What did they call Jesus? Teacher, 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 right? Like, what do you say? You know, all of these things. Jesus Christ is God, but, you know, I think the world's going to look at the Antichrist in the same exact way. They're going to look at him like he is God and he is also a teacher. And ultimately, he's he's in line and he's connected with something else that's unseen. And what's unseen is what Alice Bailey talks about as the Lord of this world and the Ancient of Days, she calls him. And the name that she gives this entity is called Sanat Kumara. And Sanat Kumara has a direct connection with Venus. And literally, brother, if you turn to Daniel chapter 11, verse 38, I think we see something here exactly with what I'm saying, where the Antichrist, right? In Daniel chapter 38, I'll bring it up too, because it's fascinating.
Okay.
So Daniel 11, verse 38, and it says here, but in his estate, his meaning the Antichrist, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and precious stones, and pleasant things. We've talked about this before. That God of forces, in my opinion, is the goddess, or at least what the goddess represents in some sort of way. That goddess, like I said, it has a connection to Sanat Kumara, according to Alice Bailey. Sanat Kumara has a direct connection to Venus, right? And is kind of like this entity, this god that is unseen. And the world teacher, the Maitreya, the Antichrist, is is doing the will of Sanat Kumara.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like the Antichrist is doing the will of the god of forces. It's something interesting to think about, right? And it even says right after that, thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. What's interesting about this is a counterfeit here of how Jesus had a relationship with the Father, right? But it's more or less like the Antichrist, the Maitreya, the world teacher, having a relationship with Sanat Kumara. And Sanat Kumara looks like a Palladian. I don't know if you've seen, like, an image of Sanat Kumar. Um,
No, but I mean,
oh, man.
I looked at some of these, alien like things that show up in this Cayce work, right? The Nordics. Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, they look like Nordics.
Yeah, dude.
This looks like a Nordic. Yeah, crazy man.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, this is deep stuff.
It's heavy, doc.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, uh, did you get into the stone much, or the people looking for the stone, or did you see like how modern people are trying to find this in any type of a way? Because I think that's these groups that believe in this. What did you call that again that you just showed? Some
Sanat Kumara.
the people who believe in this. It seems like they might be out actually looking for these relics. Because that's what I found when I looked into this. All of these people were out here looking for it, and it's mentioned in the Epstein files too
I'll
that they
tell you
were
this
looking
though.
for it.
What if the item itself is just um
When I say it, I'm talking about, ruins, relics,
right.
all kinds of different things, just anything associated with it, but definitely ruins. It's like they want to find the ruins so badly for some reason.
Well, think of it like this way. I remember one of the first shows you did come in on my show. You talked about the Vril Society and what they were going after, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like what we see in the Indiana Jones movies, and that they're in search of all these ancient mystery items that hold some sort of life force energy to it. And really, at the end of the day, that's what alchemy is. The allegory of alchemy turning metals uh, into gold I is not exactly what alchemy truly is to the real alchemist, to the real adepts of alchemy. They believe that there is power and life force energy, chi, prana, all of this material force that's in these items that they're actually trying to extract out of these items. Now, you could extract it out of these items, or you can pretty much mash together the 4 elements of life and create the 5th element. And that 5th element would be that life force ethereal energy. And I think that that ultimately is what is really important. Like, I think the Firestone, according to Casey's work, what I do is I take little bits and pieces from all of their works, and I kinda look at the big picture of everything. And I'm almost saying that, the Firestone is the Holy Grail, but the real purpose of the Firestone is to extract that life force energy out of the Firestone or the Holy Grail, and to then use that, or maybe that's God to certain people. Like, you kinda get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
it's a struggle because the topic's pretty complex.
Well, yes, and that's why I keep coming back to the actual relic factor here, because what you just said, this sounds kind of fanciful, but I think it helps drive a point when you realize how many people were out here looking for this stuff and still are. This is being sought after. And I'm gonna show you another reel, and this time I'm going to enable the sound because I don't think I did that last time.
Okay.
And I think this fits with what we're saying here. Shoot, it's not gonna. Dang it! It's making me. It's asking me to install something, so I don't think this is gonna
Oh,
play.
okay.
But ah, sorry about that.
Play.
You don't hear this?
No. Oh, there's Atlantis. Looks like Atlantis. Oh, Giorgiani. Yeah, another new age guy.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
love.
Well, that's a big uh wah 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 on that. So I'm gonna have to figure out something with Zoom so I can share sound in the future. But you see where they're going with this.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Hawking had some Stephen Hawking, they took him down there. She has the submarine. They're looking for the civilization. She was part of a network of people attempting to excavate Atlantis and reconstruct its knowledge. You can see this in all kinds of ways. The ground of the Zora Ranch that Epstein had, it's in the concentric ring pattern that Plato described as the ground plan of the city of Atlantis. There was a statue of Poseidon and a statue of Atlas. So it was an Atlantean temple. They're talking about Epstein's temple, um, on a Little St. James. So
Mhm.
that's basically what it was, and they're just showing pictures of. I'm just explaining this for the listeners, but obviously it's Epstein and Maxwell and their interest in, or supposed interest, right, in
That's probably
Atlantis.
why they picked that location of Little St. James, right? Because it's kinda
Right.
right in that area,
It's right in
that
that
Bimini
area.
Road area. And
Exactly.
I think that Epstein too, I did a show with William Ramsey the other yesterday, or yesterday or the day before, I can't remember anymore, but I was talking to him. We did an Epstein episode, and I'm not sure if I've talked with you about this, but in Epstein's library, he had a lot of different things. He actually had a lot of statues in his library, and each of his statues were black. Each and every one of them were black, and it represents alchemical negretto, right? It's what we've talked about in the past before when you bring up the Black Madonna, right? The Black Madonna is about this transformation, and it's transformation because the Black Madonna being Mother Mary and the iconography of her holding baby Jesus, she's transformed because of the child, right? And she ultimately does resemble the goddess because the dark pigmentation of the skin in the statue and the iconography doesn't just only mean alchemical negretto, but also means fertility. And why fertility, you say? Well, fertility in the way of agriculture, meaning if you have compost and you have really, really good compost, which is soil to grow food, it's black and it should look like tar almost with how black the soil should be. And it's it's allegory for regeneration, reincarnation, and living forever, right? And there's something about this transformation. There's something about the Tuai stone, the fire stone, and its connection to the goddess. There's something about the idea of ancient relics and possessions and stones that they hold some sort of life force energy, chi or prana, and ultimately, I think that what they're trying to do and what Epstein was, trying to pay people to figure out was how can I live forever? Like, how can I live forever? Either am I going to do it by transferring my consciousness into a Hanson robotic, or am I going to do it by axiom of Maria and the evolution of my consciousness to where then I will hit and reach singularity and I don't need my body anymore. Like there's a thing in Tibetan Buddhism that's called the rainbow body. And it's so funny because that kind of lines up with Alice Bailey's work and this what's known as the seven rays of light almost, right? The rainbow. Be careful of the rainbow, folks. There's hidden dangers in it. And that's actually a great book by Constance Cumby. God bless her soul. She passed away, but she was one of the biggest people out there that were exposing the new age and how she pulled together their symbolism and ultimately she saw what their plan is. And there's multiple different routes to get to the plan, but ultimately it has something to do with living forever. And to circle this back into Casey's work with the Atlantean civilization and that group that he described as the Sons of the Law of One, they used that firestone, that Tuai stone, to live forever. They used it for regeneration, for healing. They used it for spiritual ascension. They worshiped these things in temples of light. Temples of light. What do we see at the end of the Disclosure Day trailer? you actually see a house with light shooting out of it. That to me looks like a temple of light. The child at the end of the trailer is also walking with nature. That's what the goddess is known for, to being the mother of all living. And specifically, she's walking with a white stag. The white stag is in meditation practices known as having a connection to Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene being one of the divine feminine entities that's appeared to many different people, along with other entities out there. But my point is
Well,
all of this stuff.
the Templars referred to North America before Columbus as the Isle of the White Stag. One of the Templars did.
What?
Yeah.
And I've heard too, who's that
They
Templar guy going around?
these were goddess worshiping Templars. This was one of the Sinclairs, and he said when he was a kid, and this goes back to Scotland and where some of these guys were hiding out and all that. They were jumping on boats and coming over here to North America, specifically Newfoundland, where the Vikings had already been. I think they were using an old Viking route at that point. They also used Phoenician routes, I think, but this one was an old Viking route. So they would come over to Newfoundland, and Sinclair was brought when he was a kid. He talked about this in letters, and he said they called it the Isle of the White Stag.
Wow. This is crazy here. I just saw it. So the connection between the Baphomet and Sophia stems from a 20th century cryptographic theory proposing that the name Baphomet is a cipher for Sophia, Greek for wisdom. According to the Gnostic teaching, Sophia is the divine feminine aspect of God responsible for bringing forth both the spiritual and material worlds. Whoa, dude.
Who is that teaching from?
This is from cryptographic theory, but it also says here the Atbash cipher theory. The theory that
Yes.
Baphomet and Sophia are identical was popularized by Dead Sea Scrolls scholar Dr. Hugh J. Schoenfield in his book, The Essene Odyssey.
Yeah, it's possibly that that's a new development, relatively new, that, Eliphas Levi, when he created the symbol, I'm not sure that he was connecting it directly to Sophia, but that sounds like something that Gnostics would have come in and done later, potentially, and that's what this is. But yeah,
Whoa.
it is seen as being connected to her now in the Gnostic circles, from what I can tell. But originally, I think the symbol was talking about, old gods, demons, and demonesses as well, like Samael and Lilith was the two entities
Dude,
there.
do you think Baphomet is like an iconography of the Atlantean Empire where you have, you know, dissolve and coagula? You've got the sons of Belial and the sons of the Law of One. Out of chaos is life. And it's
Mm.
like you get like this is the paradigm of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which I think this is all what this comes from. I think this is the theology of that tree. I mean, the serpent said a few words to Eve, but what else was he saying to her, right? He was like he is such a counterfeit that I believe that he was trying to counterfeit the tree of life. He was trying to preach a different gospel to Eve, ultimately to try and target Eve because she was a woman and also to preach to her that the matriarchy should overthrow the patriarchy. And I don't know. I think maybe there's something there, and I even think that in Revelation 17 with the harlot, we see that it is like a matriarchal kind of society in the beginning before the eighth king comes into the play, and before that king and the antichrist, the beast, and the kings devour her. It's like this patriarchy comes and overthrows the matriarchy in some sort of way.
Mm.
I have here too that, where is it? I had something up here. Um, but basically the law of one in the Cayce readings, the Atlanteans were split into 2 factions, right? The spiritual aligned, uh, which are the law of one, and the materialistic ones, which are the sons of Belial. The law of one is based off of a matriarchal society. I don't know how true that is, but it's something that um, I found just digging into this, that they were very earth based, and goddess centric, with spiritual traditions that honored the interconnectedness of all life. Oh man, dude, it's kind of like what we see in the
So
movie Avatar.
so it'd be divine feminine centric.
Yeah.
Essentially, they would see, eh, women as the elders, I guess, and the sacred teachers.
Oh, dude, this is making me think of yeah, like what you're saying exactly. This is making me think Tesla
Well, that's
and Queen Bee.
reminiscent of the old goddess culture
Mm.
for sure. I mean, that's, you know, that goes back to the Templars too. They were very big in that. So I think they allowed women in their order. From what I've read, and that they did, they allowed women in their order because they held the divine feminine so sacred. So, and that's the thing. They were all about this Atlantean knowledge too. That Isle of the White Stag, some of them believed would be New Atlantis, be the site of the revival,
Mhm.
rebirth of Atlantis. So I can see, yeah, but so you said that was the Law of One group, though, not the Belial group, but the Law of One
Yeah, the law of one, yeah.
had a matriarchal system. Well, that's, bloodlines. We see that with the
Well, if
bloodlines.
you look at it, what does Helena Blavatsky talk about with the fifth root race? That it's a patriarchal society and all this and all that. And it's almost like where we're on the verge of transitioning into this sixth root race. I don't know how long it'll be, but it seems like it's kind of coming. I can only think that maybe things will the divine and plus we could see the divine feminine getting mixed into the culture of things with people like Chris Bledsoe and, people, that are psionic assets for, not only the military, but other independent organizations that are having experiences with the lady, but then they're also ushering, summoning, and controlling unidentified flying objects and unidentified aerial phenomenons, and they're connecting with non-human intelligence. There's something there. And it's funny, I listened to, Jake Barber in an interview with Jesse Michaels. Jesse Michaels has one of the biggest UFO, UAP, non-human intelligent podcasts in the entire world, and he's interviewing Jake Barber specifically because Jake is an ex-military contractor who would fly helicopters, and he would go and pick up unknown objects for, because it's contract work, and he would take them to a destination. And so he actually had this experience by picking up this egg-shaped UFO, and when he picked up the egg-shaped UFO, he had a divine feminine connection with the egg-shaped UFO. He doesn't know if it was an entity inside, he doesn't know if it was the craft itself, but he knows that his experience was 100% real. Now, in that interview, it was a 4-hour interview, later on, he talks about how he himself believes that that craft was summoned by a military psionics team. He didn't know anything about psionics until he says that this spirit that has been with him ever since the experience led him into psionics. Psionics is just another CE5 program, kind of like a Stephen Greer thing, another new ager. But um, he would basically talk about that there's two ways to get into this state where you can summon these UFOs and you can control these crafts. It's wild because he's a part of an organization that's called Skywatcher now, and that they do these things and they actually recruit people. Specifically, they kind of like to recruit gay men out of anybody else. This isn't against anybody of that nature, but what I'm saying is there's more of a divine feminine connection, which is why they they like these recruits a little bit better than other recruits. Now, he was saying that you can get into this state by meditation or you can get into this state through technology. We know that this technology from the Gateway process, the CIA document that was written and disclosed to the public through FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, that the technology that can get you into these meditative states are done by binaural beats, right? Hemisync, and pretty much it's frequencies in the right ear, frequencies in the left ear, and ultimately it's to bring both hemispheres of your brain to work together in as one. Law of one. And so, anyways, he's talking about the meditation state. And when he's talking about that, he says that you have to lower your intellect and increase your intuition. Alice Bailey has a book called Intellect and Intuition. And everything that he was talking about in that interview to Jesse Michaels was nothing more than new age material from Alice Bailey's book. And he was even saying that when people lower their intellect and increase their intuition, that they're in this meditative state, but then when their intellect starts to rise a little bit and they start to kind of be more observant and want to know what's going on, the craft that they're moving will all of a sudden start going haywire, and then they have to like go, oh no, like it's kind of like, you're breaking the frequency by doing that. So my point is that humanity with technology can use these things for spiritual outcomes, and I think that that's what the whole UFO stuff can be about. Maybe that's the whole point of all these things, and it's really to bring in a religion on top of how to use the technology spiritually. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's my whole thing with the archaeological connection. That's why I keep going back to that, because I'm wondering if they actually have some of this stuff and they're going to start using it, or they've been using it behind the scenes. And the Jake Barber story and that interview in particular, I listened to it and I remember thinking, wow, that's interesting. He's like, so he's saying that the people can make the connection, like in a CE5 way. You could meditate, channel, get into the headspace and call them down, or they have a technology now that does it for them. That's what I picked up on, and that was that they have some sort of device that they've developed that attracts these UFOs or summons them, if you will, brings them into being. You don't just need a summoner there anymore. That's what I so I keep going back because the question I'll pose is like, has the new age working with the mystery schools actually found something from the Atlantean ruins, or so harkening back to that antediluvian society? Because people around Cuba are getting suppressed for talking about finding these ocean ruins. Like that story over and over again, you'll see these people find something, the government comes in, shuts it down, and they never talk about it again. And that was the whole thing with Paulina Zelinsky, who found the pyramids there on the tip of Cuba. She found that in 2001, I think it was, because I think it was 25 years ago at this point. And nothing's ever been said about that find. It's there. It seems to be referenced in the Epstein files even. It's incredible. Like, we have pictures of it. I'll show a picture of it actually. There's three very clear pyramids down there.
Wow.
And what happened? Why are I mean, that's significant, right? Archaeologically significant.
Yeah.
Why is that not being talked about, right? That's a big red flag. So it's like, did they find something and they have something? And again, I'll talk about the Cayce reading again that I read there. It sounds like some of these tablets were found or being found and they were shipped up here to the US. If that's the case, who has them and what are they doing with them? Here's there's a picture of what they found, western tip of Cuba, three very clear pyramids down there and some ruins. And, this was a city. Here's one that's cleaned up. There's
Mm.
the real picture at the top, and here at the bottom is an AI computerized reconstruction. You see that this was something that, in ancient science,
Yeah,
um,
dude.
a lot of people think, but so you have Elon Musk's grandfather who helps revive the notion of technocracy in the 30s. He's flying around looking for a lost civilization too. And then he they say he mysteriously dies in a plane crash, but maybe not because I've had a guy on who interviewed the babysitter of Elon Musk, and she says that he faked his death. That the grandpa, who's Joshua Haldeman is his name, he faked his death. So it's like, well, did he find something?
Uh,
And was it so important that he faked his death? And who knows, is working behind the scenes, breakaway civilization style, on helping elite people work with and develop this technology further. That might be a stretch. It might be a bridge too far for some people, but I'm just asking the question because everybody seems to be interested in this. That's what I walked away with from looking into this was like everybody from John Lennon to Ghislaine Maxwell to Ernest Hemingway was interested in this stuff, looking around this Bimini area, the Cuba area, or the Yucatan Peninsula area. So I just find it interesting, like, the dark journalist, again, I'll drop his name because he's done a lot of work on this. He uncovered some things with this. He like Colonel Sanders, the guy who started KFC, his daughter was looking for Atlantis down there in this area. And she actually had an organization called Mars where they were looking for it. And then, g- the Ghislaine Maxwell thing is forever interesting to me with as regards to this because she was dating the guy who helped create Gateway Computers. His name was Ted Waite, I believe. They were apparently looking for Atlantis in this area as well. You have the National Geographic Society who was involved in searches for this. So and Hemingway's brother too. Hemingway's brother was out there in Bimini trying to build a new Atlantis. That's what he said, believing the Cayce rings. It all goes back to the Cayce rings, though. I think all of these people that I've mentioned w- were getting the notion from him and going and starting their own searches from there, believing that these ruins would rise from the ocean and all the rest of it. People have been looking for this for a long time. I mean, one of the craziest ones would be a potential Jim Morrison connection because some people say he faked his own death too, right? But guess where he was going when he split from the Doors? He had all that time off after he split from the band. He was going down to the Bahamas. He was going to these islands in the Caribbean. And he was looking for spirituality. It's almost like he joined up with the New Age when I looked into this very briefly because he's exploring spirituality, altered states. He was writing spiritual poetry and all the rest of it. So he had this fascination with shamanism and with mythology and with the indigenous traditions of the area. So it's like, did he join up with the new age and did he start looking for this Atlantean source information as well and the relics and all the rest of it?
yeah, and I think, man, that these people are just in search for like the philosopher's stone.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they want to find these ancient megalithic sites so that they can find another trail towards whatever source it is that they're seeking out. And it's almost like one more piece of knowledge or one more clue. All of this is kind of what we see in the movie The National Treasure.
Mhm.
It's like, it's like, there's like maybe 6 or 7 different points of the movie where Nicolas Cage would find something and it added a clue to the
Yeah.
next thing, added a clue to the next thing, and then ultimately they found the treasure. you
Yeah.
know?
And yeah, it ties in with the nature of the goddess too.
Mhm.
They called her the queen of the labyrinth because
Mm.
she sends you down these Ishtar egg hunts.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That whole it's in the movie. It's encoded into the movie Ninth Gate. 1999 comes out the same year as The Matrix. I think they dropped some pre-programming on us in 1999 in the movies, and Ninth Gate was no exception. And what does the goddess female demoness energy do with Johnny Depp? She leads him down this Da Vinci Code national treasure type Ishtar egg hunt.
Yeah.
Chase for the truth. I need this. I need more knowledge. I'm tacking on, I'm tacking on things here to see a bigger picture, right?
Mhm.
That's the nature
Exactly.
of the goddess in the ancient world, all the way back. They call her the queen of the labyrinth for that.
Wow. Like this stuff, what I really think, I think there's gonna be something that that comes out of this Atlantean mystery that leads to universal force or prana, chi, something that humanity can, and maybe that is the Firestone, right? Like, maybe I'm just kinda just, you know, spitballing here, but maybe that is what they'll end up coming to their own conclusions about, where maybe it wasn't specifically a crystal or a stone or this or that. Maybe it was just life force energy. How can we manipulate matter to create universal source, or to create free energy? And then if you actually mix this free energy or this source with technology, then we all can become like God. I don't know,
That's
like.
I wondered about this too. You said, the manipulation of matter. And I also wonder if CERN is involved with this hunt for Atlantis as well, because, what if CERN is looking to put a particle collider in these underwater ruins somewhere, because these people are studying how to put cities underwater. Peter Thiel did a huge study on how do you build, develop, facilitate an underwater city, like a bubble,
Mm,
city in a bubble. And then you've got this quiet deal that was worked out a few years ago between CERN and the Bureau of Oceans. Hmm.
mm,
You got all these people looking for this stuff in the ocean. It's like, we know how connected Epstein was to everybody, to big science and everybody else. And these people are seem to be looking for this stuff. I didn't even get through half the list of important people who are looking for the ruins of Atlantis, but I suspect strongly that there is a new age faction that's made its way into science, and they're interested in this ocean Atlantis stuff. I really do, because they say all these major scientists and people who work for CERN included all have something in their office that's like occult related, like Shiva like, maybe even, there's something always there in the background when it comes to these scientists that connects them with the occult or with occult theology. So, what you have is with that is a bunch of people who are atheists publicly, but privately they're something else, because atheism gets them funding and gets them Nobel prizes. So they kind of
mhm,
have to do it to play ball, to be in the big science game. But secretly they're into the type of stuff we broke down on this conversation today. The occult and the new age and all that. They all seem to be into that quietly. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was this um connection with science and trying to find this stuff.
oh, yeah, I think there's gonna be something where science, government, and religion all come together as one. I mean, I even think that that's what the whole Genesis project is for, or that what's known as the Genesis mission, where they're basically, and this is something that Trump set up, and they're basically trying to evolve artificial intelligence. They're trying to move artificial intelligence from the state that it's in and completely bypass AGI. Well, I guess you could say maybe we're at a state of AGI, maybe not. I mean, but it seems like it could be possible. But they anyways, they want to evolve right past that. If anyone doesn't really understand what um, evolution means, I always kind of break it down into like Pokemon. Like, we've all kind of played Pokemon. I mean, I'm a '90s baby, so if there's any '90s babies out there, you definitely know what I'm talking about. It's when, Pikachu turns into Raichu. It's like where you get these evolutions and they change. And when you evolve, your health goes up higher. your power goes up higher, your defense goes up higher. Everything about you, it becomes more enlightened and becomes more ascended. And what they're trying to do with artificial intelligence is they're bringing it now into the scientific realm. You're going to start to see artificial intelligence take over the industry of science. If it bypasses AGI, AGI means that artificial intelligence is smarter than than 100 of the smartest men in the entire world if they were all together into one. That's incredible, right? So they almost wanna reach this level of ASI, artificial super intelligence, and I think why they're doing that is because they want this thing. I even think that people that are obsessed with the idea of Atlantis are maybe more obsessed with artificial intelligence simply because they can get the mysteries from AI rather than searching for the mysteries.
Yeah,
See what I'm saying?
that's that. Yeah, that's that whole thing that we keep hearing about this AI having the power of 800 billion brains. It's it's the emerging philosophy of posthumanism. AI will be smarter than anybody alive combined, and so we can trust it and trust it to give us a connection to the divine. So it's going to have a really strong connection because of its 800 billion brain power or something. There's a thought there. It's this AI can be the liaison, between us and the divine.
Oh, wow.
That's a thought that I see emerging. It's a philosophy that's just beneath the surface in this transhumanistic, post-humanistic world that we see ourselves entering, that's being spearheaded by the big tech companies and their CEO governance guys. You Sam Altman, Elon Musk. We know the list, the guys that were at the inauguration. Beneath the surface there, I think, is this philosophy that this AI will become a connection to us. It not only will it no, this is what I think they believe. Not only will it be able to delay death for you and maybe even make you younger, it possibly even offer you immortality, but
Mhm.
it will also become this connection to a divine entity.
Oh, yeah, and I think it's portrayed on the Great Awakening map as a divine source. That's what I was getting at with earlier,
Mm.
talking about the goddess and universal energy and life force energy and prana and chi and all that good stuff that can really activate your divine spark, right? Um, I'll pull this up because it's wild, man.
Yeah, and I
I
just think that
Go ahead.
the institutions are going to stop seeing a difference between technology and mysticism.
Mm,
I think some of them already do. I think some of the people at the tops of these institutions already do. Like behind the scenes, CERN. I think the people at the tippity top who are running CERN do not see a difference between technology and mysticism. Full, no difference. But I think you're going to start to see more of that, and it's going to start, I think, coming out more and more that that's the case. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, yeah, this is that solar beam that you mentioned earlier. I was like, "Oh, dude, I've seen that before." The great solar flash that,
Can you explain this thing?
yeah,
What
so
is?
so this map here, man, is basically, it starts at the bottom, right? Like any map, it has a point of origin, and really it starts at escape the matrix. But everything on this entire map is at some point a psyop for the new age religion to be ushered into the world. And I've talked about a lot of things on this map. And that's why it's kind of convicting sometimes when I pull it up and I look at it. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yes, there is something about the Vatican and the Vatican Library and the Lucifer telescope and all of these things. But that's part of this playbook. That's part of discussing the topics that are meant to be talked about so that the consciousness, the collective consciousness, through technology, through the Internet of Things, through the internet and social media, everyone will start to have their consciousness lifted a little bit. You ever heard of the term "the veil is breaking"? The veil, it's thin. It's like this is all new age terminology for enlightenment, and it's done by knowledge. It's done by learning things. It's done by being initiated into it. And so you have a bunch of here's the law of one here. Blue avians will be something that's probably talked about here in the future. You got David Wilcock here, the cosmic web, the secret space program. This here, um, where is it?
Wait,
Sidonia.
so
Go ahead.
what's the common what's the nucleus of this map if you had to say that everything connects back to?
Oh, right here. Source. And it's funny how they put it in the
Source.
cornerstone section
Oh yeah,
of
that's why I didn't pick up on it.
yeah, so they wanna connect humanity back to what the law of one would be advocates for, and that's source.
Oh,
Firestone,
okay, so
Twistone.
they put it in the like cornerstone, like the Masonic tradition. I
Yeah.
get it now.
Yeah, yeah, I found that interesting too, and it's gonna be a new religion, man, and like, it's just the Great Awakening, right? Like, we would I feel like since I've peeled back these multiple layers of deception, which people need to do, you gotta if you think you have it figured out, like, peel back the next layer, dig deeper. Um, I mean, it's
Oh my goodness, it's all here. This
it's all here,
who
dude.
in
It's
the
all here.
world
It's all
who
here.
locked
This wa
themselves in their basement to comprise this, dude? This is wild. It's got MJ12. It's got Pleiadian guidance. I saw even Gary McKinnon right there. Love
Oh,
the
yeah.
Gary McKinnon story. I don't hear much about that one. You've got like star destroyers from Star Wars on this thing.
Oh, yeah. Look, inner Earth civilizations, right? Breakaway civilizations. This is pushed as well by Catherine Fitz, I think her name is, but she's also a New Age advocate and an affiliate pushing the New Age movement. You have in here, Nordics, right? Giants. There's all kinds of stuff in here, man, that people and myself have talked about, but it's ultimately to push this information through the internet so that it blankets the entire population of the world so then people's consciousness can become elevated, that veil starts to break a little bit, and then people come into the great awakening, and then the antichrist, the Maitreya, the world teacher helps guide humanity right into this this new world. I don't know, man.
Goodness.
I have a feeling this is exactly what it's going to do. Um,
Yeah, go back to the bottom for me, man. This is like yet the Masons, the Jesuits, the Khazars, the Knights Templar, Deep State, Illuminati, Cabal, CIA, Council of 200, CERN, Werner von Braun,
mhm.
got some Nazi SS sigils, runes there. Yeah, I mean, it's all here. There's some stuff and religions.
I ordered this. It's coming in. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do my own conspiracy, like that meme where it's like the guy he's like, dude, like look, it's like got all kinds of things connected to each other.
This is wild. I need we yeah,
Uh,
just get a big poster of this and put it up behind you, man. You
yeah,
reference it during our shows. It's all there. I gotta spend some time looking at this. Um, they're just, but yeah, they're showing how everything is connected.
pretty much. If you started a podcast, you easily have about 500 episodes of material on this map. Like, easily,
Yep,
dude.
no doubt.
uh, and again, like I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater with a lot of this stuff, but I know its purpose. I know what's
Yeah.
going on now, right? Like when you really take a step back and you zoom out a little bit more, man, like you can see why they want these topics talked about, why they want the information to be broken out. It's to
What?
awaken people, man.
Yeah.
But awaken is initiating.
Mm,
It's to initiate
sure.
the world into uh perennialism. You know, like
J-
perennialism would be if the whole world has talked about at least or have heard about something on this map, then they all have something in common, and then they could all worship something that they have in common. I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it.
what is the Maldek
Oh, here?
Mars Ancient War
Super
Super Earth?
Earth. Oh, war with Mars. So this is like the asteroid belt, right? It's supposed to,
Oh, okay.
this gets into like Cydonia here,
Yeah, okay. I
where
knew about Sidonia
yeah,
and the asteroid belt, Rahab, and
right,
hammered out like a bracelet. All that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man.
yeah,
This is a wild one. They got something. They got something on there that says the rabbit hole, and I'm like, this the whole thing is the rabbit hole.
right. Yeah,
The
it's wild, dude.
interdimensional, hyperdimensional hexagon,
Yeah.
which is like the top of Saturn.
And a lot of these are well-known psyops, you know, especially you have the Q movement down here, QAnon. That's a well-known psyop, which that's a proven psyop.
Yeah, but some of these are not psyops. Can
But
we
they
agree
could
on that?
I I yeah, I mean, I'm open to that. I would
I don't
say
think.
that they could go either or.
Okay, yeah, I don't think
And really
CERN is a psyop. I mean,
no, but my I guess my definition of a psyop would be to ultimately get you to a certain destination. It's not that the materials are false or a
mm,
lie, but it's ultimately to push humanity to a destination. They want
mhm,
a general outcome for everybody. And so therefore you've got think of this whole thing like you want the whole world to eat the bag of candy and the bag of candy has 25 different it's like Skittles. There's a bunch of different colors. Each color is a Skittle. You see what I'm saying? So it's a bunch of different options that you think are options, but ultimately I it's all part of the same body. I don't know, like, that's kinda like I'm being pretty weird about it right now, but 'cause it's so much, I just think it's ultimately to get people to this, to right here. And at the end of the day, like, that is where this map kinda ends,
return to
where
source.
everything returns to source to, in my opinion, what is going to be the goddess. I think the goddess is source. It's all living things, it's life force energy, and I think that it's at some point, I
Yeah,
don't know.
but there's God also, and
Mhm.
that's God. So God, and I don't use source in my vocabulary as a word that I apply to God. I know some people do, but it can also be God. Like it's not
Right.
people insert false gods into that position
Mhm.
and you know and treat them as source, but ultimately source is the creator of the universe.
Mhm. Yeah. I guess this would be like the Gnostic, like, monad, like, return to
Because
source.
yeah, I mean, no, I get what you're saying though. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's super interesting, man.
It's wild. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But this is all I mean, every single and this is what I'm saying here. Like I've looked into I'm not so much looking into so much the material of what all of these things talk about, but I'm looking at the people that are behind it now and the people and their connections and the network that they're a part of tell a greater story than what all of these topics are actually talking about, right? It's like when you actually see the people behind it, you can see like the spirit behind it and really what they want.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, man. Using we talked about this on the CERN episode too, like using people using the Kabbalah as a blueprint for mind creation. And
Mm.
AI is part of that. AI is like this vessel that's capable of hosting emanation. Like that's some theory I heard talked about. AI is a vessel for hosting emanation, which because the Kabbalah is about emanationism, and then you have transcendental philosophy playing a part of that, and then they're fusing it with AI, Kabbalah, and this acceleration stuff that Nick Land was talking about. So it's,
Mm.
I mean, it gets deep, but I think it's a way to integrate Kabbalah into their worldview and the source worldview. If we're
Oh,
going to
yeah,
talk,
emanationism is a metaphysical and cosmological theory asserting that all things flow outward from a single divine source or underlying principle. Wow. Oh, that's the same exact belief as what Blavatsky and Alice say was the origin of the Christ. Like it was the first Christ. Like the Big Bang, I guess, for example, right? Like when you have this, right, where everything kind of started and originated from, that's what I've read of their work. I don't know. Kind of
yeah. Well, and they
made me
might
think of
say
that.
too that the Kabbalistic tree of life ex- expresses the Sephiroths to express that, where it's like Blavatsky and later quantum physics discovers that if you break down matter into its smallest piece, it lacks locality. So it's everywhere. It's omnipresent. It's not bound to the physical laws of reality. It's kind of paranormal in a sense. And they think that the Kabbalistic tree of life somehow expresses all that. So,
Hmm.
but now instead of it being a construct, a mental construct, an idea that you express or understand by looking at the tree of life, now it's the computers are doing it for you. Now
Mm.
it's the computer's job to understand and work with this.
Wow.
That would be one way that people would fall into this accelerationism if you're getting into like Nick Land and that sort of stuff and the new philosophy behind the tech revolution, fifth industrial revolution stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, Nick Land.
Yeah.
Or wait, I think that's crazy. I just had on S90 and he brought him up. S90 is one of the best researchers I've ever talked with,
I
ever.
know. I know. I listened to one of your shows with him, and I don't even know who he is, but I want to talk to you about him after we're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Did you have anything else you want to wrap up with? We went
No, man.
pretty deep.
No. No, yeah, pretty deep, man. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. It
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
There's a yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of what we can call new age theory out there floating around. It has been for a long time. That's nothing new, but there's just a lot of weird theories out there, and it's cool to put them on the table, talk about them, and see how they all connect, see what's what. You know, there's the old and the new. Blavatsky, Krim. We talked about that
Mhm.
Krim guy before. He's been out there saying this stuff since the 70s. And you have a newer version of this, you know, coming through on the podcast. Maybe even Jesus comes back as a computer. What's more version than a computer?
Oh, yeah, right.
You know,
Joe
so
Rogan said that, I
yeah.
think. That's crazy.
A lot of and he wouldn't consider himself to be new age. But it's like we were talking about before the show. A lot of people have these new age ideas in their backyard and
Mhm.
they're overlooking, they're forgetting they're back there and they're drawing upon them and using them from time to time. So I
Yeah,
think it's
it's that's like that pattern recognition, yeah, like I mentioned
yeah.
earlier, in the beginning. And that's where I think there's an affiliation. You might not be actual, like, a part of the agenda, but you're affiliated, you've been influenced, you've become an influencer in some sort of way, ignorantly. It's like the movie Inception, dude, they're putting ideas in our heads, and you think that you've thought of it on your own or it's your own little philosophies, but it's like, "No, dude, this stuff has been, strategically put out there." I mean, if in the 1970s, they had over 500 million people in the entire infrastructure of just on the western side of the world. What are they at now? I mean, they've gotta at least be at 1,000,000,000. If they're at 1,000,000,000, that's more than how many there's only 300 and, like, 70 something million Americans in the United States. If they have 1,000,000,000 on the western side of the world, something's up here.
Mm,
Something's going on. It's something serious to talk about.
yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's too it's been harbored by the mystery schools all this whole time. You know, if you take mainly P. Hall's word for it, he said that it was the ancient wisdom of Atlantis this whole time has been encoded in the mystery schools. So it's always been there. And it's like you said, you know, you kind of have to be initiated into it, but not so much anymore. It seems like they're trying to initiate everybody into it
Mm.
through these groups, through these pockets of institutions, even. But yeah, um, interesting stuff, man. You know, I think you've got a point, and there's something happening. These things are on the move out there.
Yeah, there's gonna be more to talk about, man. I'm
Oh
excited.
yeah,
We'll get together again, and
sure.
I'm excited. I'd love to get you back on, and we could do a one-on-one or something. Anything you want to get into, or anything that you've been looking up, man. Just hit me up, and we'll get connected again.
Okay. Awesome, man. You know, I've got yeah, we can go ahead and end it and wrap it up here. But yeah, I've got stuff on New Atlantis I've been working on, and that's something like I think I mentioned earlier. I didn't expect to see how that connected to this type of an episode. But the New Atlantis stuff plugs right into this.
Mm.
All that Francis Bacon, uh, New Atlantis, uh even technocracy and all that, that fits right into all this. So yeah, we can talk, man. There's so many different ways you could take a conversation like this and develop upon it. But we'll end it with that, man. It was awesome having you back on. I always love talking with you, man. Hearing what you're working on. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. People can check out the show over on YouTube, The Biblical Hitman, and audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Spreaker. And then also I have a Patreon, patreon.com/slash the biblical hitmen, and get all of your ad free stuff over there. You could also get involved with the group chats and do direct chats with me over there as well. But brother, thank you, man. This is always a an awesome opportunity to come on and to talk with you and to be on your show. I'm proud of you, and I love seeing where the show is going, and I love seeing that you're being consistent. And I really enjoy working with you, man. And I'm hoping we can do it more often.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see where the future uh, goes with your show, and you know, let's do it together.
Well, yeah, absolutely, man. We got more of these to come for sure. I was going to talk with you about that afterwards, about setting something up for the future, man. I appreciate the kind words. You know, I've been enjoyed. I'm not gonna make this a love fest, but I've enjoyed watching your show grow too. Okay, it's awesome.
Yeah, bro.
No, I appreciate you, brother. We'll have more of these for everybody listening coming, um, in the near future. I want to tell everybody, you know, check the links below. Make sure you go check out Steven's stuff. Show him some love, and before you do anything, go and subscribe, please, to my show. You can subscribe to his show too, but subscribe to my show because I could use some more subscribers. You guys are listening, but you're not all subscribed. So I'm just asking politely if you would consider subscribing. And if you guys want extra content, I do drop bonus material on Patreon every week. If you really like the show, go sign up for the Patreon, but just subscribe. That's all I'm asking. And we'll end it with that. You know, this was a lot of fun. We got more of these coming. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to keep working with Steven here. So we're gonna wrap this one up until next time. Break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.